it's crazy because I tell people that the particular market that I like to invest in is only 25,000 people. And everyone's like, well, you can't really do much there. And I'm like, well, then how come I've got 31 doors?
I got him.
What I've noticed with smaller towns is you don't have as much competition, but you still have enough competition to make sure that the values of your houses are going up.
All right, I'm here with Belen Caballero. What's up? Did I say it right? Did I say the
You
name right?
did. No, you're good. You're good. Hey, Jaron, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm stoked to have you. I try not to butcher anybody's name. Everybody I have on, I ask what their name is because my name gets butchered so much, and it got butchered a ton growing up. Like I played college baseball, and I go up to bat, and they'd be like Jaron Schuster, and I'm like, my name is Jaron Sustar. What are we doing here?
Hey, it's not like Mexico. Mexico has some, they give you some little accent marks at the top of your name. So, like, that actually helps you pronounce it better. Out here, it's like, well, I guess you put the accent wherever you want to put it.
Yeah, especially where I'm from, Belen Caballero. That's how people be
Yeah.
calling you in South Carolina. But
I've gotten Ballin. That was my favorite.
what?
Ballin. Yeah.
Shut up! Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this one will call you the whole episode. We're here with Ballin. That is hilarious. Well, I
I
am
don't even.
stoked to have you. Like, I am super stoked. Um, you are a coach in the Rental Academy, which is my community, investment community, and mentorship. And so you're going to provide, and you provide fantastic value to our students. But now I get to share you with all the listeners who may not be in the Rental Academy, and you get to talk about your story, which is just amazing. So again, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me and for having me. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about what I do.
For sure. So I want to give you a rap sheet real quick, just so people know how big of a stud you are, and then we'll dig into some questions. But Baylen's got single family, multi-family. She's done fix and flips. Right now, she has 31 doors to her name. She's done it creatively through partnerships. She has her own project management company where she will manage your project for you. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And she is on Instagram, has a great brand, Belen _the builder. And she posts some pretty awesome content. See, in my properties, I don't do the work. Okay. I'll just be straight up. Like, I don't do any of the work. I farm it all out. But you do, and you document it, and your content is freaking awesome. I love it. So,
Thank you.
where did you start with construction? Like, where'd that background come from originally?
Oh man, it came from YouTube. No, I my life completely took a 360 back in 2018 when I first started real estate. I knew nothing about real estate investing, knew nothing about construction, nothing about DIY, none of that. And the my now ex-husband, my husband at the time, he actually was the one that was interested in real estate investing. He's like, "Hey, this is cool. We should do this." And I was like, "All right, well, I like you. Let's do it. Let's see what this is all about." So we first started with saying, "Okay, we're going to hire everything out." Well, you have those horror stories of, well, the contractor, took my $14,000 for a kitchen remodel, did the demo, and then literally moved states. Like, this is an actual true story. And so my
Wow.
ex husband was like, well, why don't you start doing some DIY? And at the time, we were following Investor Girl Brit. And he was like, yeah, you could be like her, just the Mexican version, and you could do awesome or whatever. And so I was like, I've always been a yes girl. I've always been like, yeah, let me try that. Why not? I feel like I can potentially do it. And so I gave it a try. I picked up a drill. I started doing it, and I absolutely hated it at first. I was like, this isn't for me. I don't want to do this. I did it for a little while in 2018, stopped doing it, went back to it 2019, and I was like, okay, I'm going to actually really try this time. And it wasn't until I was starting to be successful at it that I'm like, oh, I can actually do this. Like, actually, I can actually paint this house. I can actually, lay this floor. And so I started putting it on Instagram, And I actually got a lot of support from my followers. And I was like, okay. And I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. Fast forward to now, last year I built my own construction company. That was passed on to my ex husband when the divorce happened. So I started a new construction company this year. And I was like, I'm not going to give up on what I enjoy doing. So I continue to, I call it DIY my own projects, but at this point, it's just my construction company remodeling, as well as I still hire out other contractors because I still believe in scaling and I know that I can't take everything on myself, even though I wish that I could, especially now being 8 months pregnant.
Yes, I was about to say, I got that in my notes. You're about to have a baby in less than a month. That's crazy.
Yeah,
And you're still doing
exactly.
stuff. I still see your videos on Instagram coming up and you're out working. I'm like, Belen, you gotta chill. You gotta relax a little bit. You're about to have a baby, but you're out there just grinding.
I love it. I can't. I stopped doing it for about 2 weeks. I went to California a week ago. I was there for about a week, came back, and I was taking it really slow. And then I had my appointment yesterday, and they're like, "You've gained some weight." And I was like, "Thanks." First of all, I'm growing a baby. Second of all, yeah, it's probably because I haven't been active for the last 2 weeks. So it's actually been helping me to stay active. But I have some limited abilities now, so I have to really be careful. Like my boyfriend won't let me get on the scaffolding, unfortunately. I'm not
Yes.
allowed on top ladders. So there's certain things I'm not allowed to do anymore, which I guess I'm okay with, but I do miss it. I miss being in the grind.
That
So
just allows you to be bossier though, because you can be like, hey, I can't do that, but you need to do this, you need to do that. So you can just take over the project. Nobody can really say anything to you. You got to
right. I
use that to
have
your advantage.
absolutely. I have taken more of a manager role, and which has really helped me because I do have other active client projects. Like you mentioned, I have my project management company as well with my partner, and it's allowed me to kind of step back and be like, okay, I don't have to go to view these houses every week. Like I have a project in Virginia. Like physically, I can't go make sure that everything's moving forward. So I've had to really utilize like pictures, photos, videos, and my communication with our contractors to make sure it's very clear so that there aren't any mistakes and we're still moving forward without me having to physically be there, physically do things. So it has helped me in some sense.
That's really cool. Yeah, I feel like that's going to stretch you in a good way and almost force you to put systems in place that are, like you said, they're going to allow you to scale over time. And it's like there's things that happen in life that make us pivot. I mean, we can all look at COVID in 2020. Everybody
Right.
had to pivot, and then now you're having this life situation. The best thing you could possibly do, have a child, and then in the grand scheme of it, it's going to help your business too. So I'm excited to see how your guys' project management company grows off of this, and how you're able to help a lot of people all over the country because of the things you're learning right now. So that's really cool. Now, what market are you in? Where do you guys live?
So I live in Oklahoma, originally from California, and my market began in California. Realized it was too expensive. Then we pivoted to Oklahoma, and at the time it was back in 2021, early 2021. I ended up moving to Oklahoma, and I loved it so much. And our portfolio has grown since. So I'm still here, still doing deals here. It's crazy because I tell people that the particular market that I like to invest in is only 25,000 people. And everyone's like, well, you can't really do much there. And I'm like, well, then how come I've got 31 doors?
I got them.
What I've noticed with smaller towns is you don't have as much competition, but you still have enough competition to make sure that the values of your houses are going up, make sure that you're still having some ARVs that are positive, and so it's been really profitable. I'm not gonna lie though, we are thinking about moving into the Tulsa market more because it is a bigger city here in Oklahoma, and because I've already established a team there for my clients. So we might be doing some more fix and flip there in the near future.
That's really cool. Yeah, there's this, I feel like new investors struggle with, I don't know where to invest. That seems to be number one, which is a valid concern. Like, you got to know when you're in this game for a while, you realize that there it's almost unlimited. You can almost draw a circle in a map around certain areas, go to the Midwest, over to Oklahoma, down to the Southeast, then close your eyes and throw a dart. And wherever
Yeah.
you land, probably within a 30-mile radius, you can find a good area to buy rental properties in or to do fix and flips in. But
Yeah.
people struggle so much with narrowing down. I mean, you're a great example. You're buying properties in a town with 25,000 people. You can buy in rural areas. I was on a call with a guy earlier today who buys in Nashville. You can buy in the big cities. And so hopefully that gives some hope to people listening to this. Say, man, I'm just not sure where to start, where to even go. Well, there's a lot of good options, which I guess could be a bad thing, can get you scatterbrained, but that's why you need to get with people who can help you focus in and pick one. And then once you choose an area, then it's farming and pull as many deals as you can, analyze them, fund them, and
Yeah.
keep adding to the portfolio. So you guys are up to 31 doors. You do all the work yourself. I think a lot of people struggle with the thought of how do I know whether to keep a property in my portfolio or how do I know if I should flip it? You have decided, you and your partners have decided the majority of your properties stay in your portfolio. I think you said you've only flipped and sold two and you've
Mhm.
kept the rest. What has that decision making been like for you? What's led you to putting in your portfolio?
So when I first started real estate, it was definitely buy and hold. Like that's what we wanted to do, me and my ex-husband. And we just stuck with that strategy. And I've realized that with fix and flip, meaning you buy them, rehab them, and sell them, you're just making a one-time money. Like it's a one-time thing. Like, yeah, it could be $20,000, it could be 40, 100,000, whatever. It sounds great, but it's just the one time. Versus if you're cash flowing, it's a lot smaller, but depending on your portfolio size, you can cash flow a lot more every month for the rest of whenever, right? Until you decide you want to sell the properties or whatever you want to do with them. So I just like that strategy a lot more than I do having that one time payment. My now mentality is okay, if I need the cash, then I'll sell some that makes sense to sell. For
Yeah.
example, I'm currently working on a project that's finishing up with my boyfriend, which is the Ramblewood project. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know which one that one is. It's almost 4,000 square feet, gigantic house. That would never do for a rental in the market that I'm in because no one's going to want to pay $2,500 for a gigantic 5 bedroom, 3.5 bath in a small town. So that one makes more sense to flip. And we're looking to make a decent chunk of change on that
Yep.
particular house. So it's really based on the property itself. All my other properties are either 2-1, 3-2s, decent sized homes for middle class people that are willing to rent. This particular Ramblewood project, it's going to be for somebody that's not middle class, that is willing to pay a pretty penny for a really nice remodeled home. So that's really where I kind of look at the properties. Does it make sense to keep it, or does it make sense to sell instead?
Yeah, that's good. You see, you're part of the Rental Academy, and I really stress to people, if you can keep a property in your portfolio, do it, because that's where real wealth comes from. Just to break this down simply for the listeners, just like Belen said, fix and flips just make you money. It's just income. Okay, it doesn't do any long term wealth building. Whereas when you put a asset like real estate in your portfolio and you hold it over time, it goes up in value while tenants are paying down your debt. You're getting the cash flow that Baylan talked about. And then you get tax benefits
Right.
all along. And so you keep stacking those up and you look over time, and you're like, oh, wow, well, now I'm worth $1 million. Well, now I'm worth $2 million. Now I'm worth $3 million. Well, now I have $10,000 a month coming in cash flow. The next thing you know, your life is completely changed. Whereas when you're flipping, you're just making a quick buck and you're paying a lot of taxes. But there's a place for it. Just like you said, there is a place for it. The cool thing about real estate, the way I teach it and the way that you do it and you teach it, is the principles of finding, analyzing, funding are all very similar, whether you're going to flip or rent. So we got to be able to know what those basics are, those core principles of real estate. But once we've been able to choose a market, generate leads, analyze those leads, learn how to fund deals and manage them, whether we're managing rehab or we're managing a renter, then we can go out and just have leads coming into us and then decide, okay, I don't need cash at this time. I'm going to keep it in my portfolio. Or we can say, you know what, I need some capital right now for whatever reason. You know, Belen, I'm having a baby. I need to flip a property because I want 50,000 in the bank account just to feel comfortable. Or, you know, my wife has been on me about redoing our kitchen at our house. And so, you know what I did? And I'm a pain in the butt. She just wants to punch me in the face for it. But I'm like, all right, if you want to do a $50,000 renovation on our kitchen, then we need to go flip however many houses it's going to take to generate that money, because I'm not doing it out of my account. And we have a great relationship and she gets it, and
That's
we're
funny.
aligned, but we give each other a hard time. I'm like, if we're going to do that kind of stuff, we're going to have an asset pay for it. My whole thought process is whatever you want to do in life, have an asset pay for it.
That's awesome.
And the beautiful thing about real estate is you can do that multiple ways, whether you're buying and holding and living off cash flow, or whether you're flipping for income for whatever you need. And that's cool to have seen you start by building a portfolio, because that's how I started. But a lot of people I interview and talk to, they don't. They just start by flipping, because I think flipping was just romanticized on TV. And so
Hmm.
people think, when they think investing in real estate, oh, we just flip. But I don't think that's, you know, the true form of investing in real estate. I think it's buying and holding. So, anyways, not to go on a tangent there, but hopefully
It's
that breaks it down.
HGTV's fault.
Yeah, exactly. It's Chip and Joanna. I'm wearing one of their shirts right here. It's
Oh
your
my
fault,
gosh,
Chip
look
and
at
Joanna.
that.
If I ever meet you guys, I'm blaming you for it. But the funny thing is,
Uh,
Chip has also, him and Joanna, they have a pretty decent rental portfolio. They did at one time, but that doesn't sell as much on TV as the whole renovation part. So
yeah,
uh,
unfortunately.
I
No,
know.
and really the other thing with that, Jaron, is that people want to do real estate because they want it to be passive, right? You're not being passive if you're constantly having to flip houses to have that income coming in. If you've got a portfolio where now you've got all these rental and they're rented out and you have a property manager, or you don't, but they're in there for a year lease or whatever, that's going to be a lot more passive than if you're having to actively look for new projects, actively have your contractor in there, actively having them, fix it up and then actively selling the property. You're literally getting another job. And that's what I've noticed with fix and flips. It's like I don't want to do more of that. I want to do less of that unless I want, like you said, unless I need the cash, because I don't want another job. I already have my construction business. I already have my project management business. I don't need a fix and flip business, but I will do it if I want to.
That's perfect. I mean, that's exactly the scenario you want to be in, and that's how you build long-term wealth while also still being able to generate some income should you, ever need it. So our listeners are lucky today because they get to listen to somebody who understands the entire rehab process. There's a number of roadblocks that are common. I've got close to 200 students now in our rental academy, and so by this point, I know what people struggle with. And one of those is being, how could I rehab a property especially if I don't know how to do the work, which you know how to do it, but you also know how to sub it out. How do I do it if I don't live near the area? Because a lot of people have to invest out of state. So I'm going to ask you a broad question and hand this interview over to you so you can teach all the listeners.
Sounds good.
How do people set up being able to go through the rehab process, whether they're flipping or whether they're keeping it as a rental? You can talk about the differences of those, but more importantly, how do you set up your team? Who are you putting on your team? How do you manage it? And then, give us maybe some tips on what you're actually fixing when you're looking at a rental compared to a flip.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I get that question all the time. And I always say jokingly, you have to make mistakes first. But I'm joking because that's how I did it, right? Like I went through all of my horror stories with contractors before I was able to vet contractors that I'm like, yeah, he's perfect. I don't even need to meet him in person. I know he's going to do a great job. But it did take me some time. when I first started, we hired out a contractor that literally we paid him up front $14,000 for a kitchen remodel. He demoed the kitchen and then literally moved states. And so we were like, okay, what do we do now, right? Then I had another contractor where I was in California. The contractor was here in Oklahoma. And the contractor was like, yeah, this is going to be, an easy peasy. Literally, it was just cosmetic rehab. It was nothing crazy. It was supposed to take 3 months, less, really. It should have taken less. This project ended up being a 7-month rehab project. I didn't know any better. So we were paying the contractor by the hour,
Oh boy.
not by the project. We ended up paying over $50,000 on a literally, the guy just went in there, painted, did new flooring, and refinished the kitchen. And he charged over $50,000. I went in there. We recently sold that property, and I went in there to look at it, and I was like, I paid over $50,000 for this. So I definitely went through my contractors. I definitely learned what not to do. And really, what I tell people is there's a rule, right? You are, let's say you're not in the state that you're investing in, and you want to hire out a contractor. You can either go with a general contractor, which I don't personally recommend, or you can go with subcontractors. Subcontractors gives you more of a way to be more in charge, right? You're able to manage the contractors individually. You're able to manage the project's process, and you're able to kind of take a handle on the money and how much you're spending. But if you wanted to decide to go with a general contractor, you could do that too. Excuse me. And make sure you always get 3 different bids. And never go with, oh, this one's really cheap. Never go with oh no, this one's really expensive because, he's going to be great and that's why he's expensive. I like to tell people go with the best price, not the cheapest price, but go with the contractor that you feel you could build a relationship with. So a contractor, and this actually happened to me recently. I was vetting contractors for Tulsa for one of our clients' project, and I had this one contractor, and I was like, okay, yeah, he seems like a awesome guy to communicate with. He's been very responsive. I asked him for references. He gave me references. I asked him for pictures and videos. He gave me befores and afters. He sent me videos and not just pictures because, people can get pictures on the internet. So videos allowed me to see his actual team and allowed me to see him in action. So I was really for this guy. But the price was a little bit higher than the second contractor. The second contractor, he was good on the communication. He was letting me know hey, if you need me to adjust stuff on the price, I can. I can include this as well. I can throw in the tile into the bathroom remodel. I can do this. So it sounded great, but something was just not clicking very well with him. I'm like, he sounds a little too desperate. He really wants me to hire him. Why? He's giving me the pictures. He's giving me the references. Nobody said that he was a horrible contractor, but why is he so willing to change the price for me to hire him? And so, of course, in my mind, I was like, I'll go with this guy. But then he said he couldn't start for another 2 weeks. And I was like, well, then I just got to go with the other guy that charged me a little bit more, but he could start right away. That time and money are definitely hand in hand when it comes to projects. And so I went with the other guy, and I told this guy that was being a little bit desperate. I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm going to go with a different contractor because they can start sooner. He flipped out, messaged me I don't know, for at least half an hour. He kept sending me messages, kept saying you don't know anything, you don't know who I am, you don't know how many projects I ran, you don't know my company, da 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 da. And he just was being very verbally aggressive. And I was like, wow, my gut was right from the beginning.
Wow.
This contractor was not the one to go with. But part of me was like, oh, it's just going to be a little bit cheaper. And I should have known better, obviously, because I've been doing this for a while. But inside of me, I was like, he's not really giving me a great vibe. So then the contractor that I actually hired, oh my gosh, amazing. He's been doing a great job. He said that he could potentially finish in 3 months. It's literally been not even 2 months and he's almost done with it. Great communication. He was asking questions throughout the project. I'm in charge of material purchases because I'm like that and I like to be in charge of that. So he was very like, okay, this is the list for this week. This is a list for next week. It just went very smooth. And I'm like, you just sometimes have to listen to your gut.
Mhm.
You have to remember, don't go with the cheapest, go with the best. The best price never means cheapest price. So that's definitely one of my biggest lessons that I try to talk to people about. And again, I still make the same mistake. I'm glad I didn't make it, you know, that where I ended up hiring this aggressive guy and then later on realized, oh no, he sucks. I would have had to fire him. I would have wasted money. I would have wasted time. So definitely always go with multiple bids and then go with the best price. And if I sound like I'm winded, it's this kid inside of me.
Ah,
Every time I talk,
that is awesome.
I'm like, I need to catch my breath. I
I'll
literally
give you
feel
a
like
break,
I ran.
man.
I
You need some
literally feel like I
oxygen.
just ran. Whew.
Somebody get this girl some oxygen
I
ASAP.
know. I can like hear
Oh,
myself. I'm like, dang it, is it getting hot in here? This kid needs to come out of me. Um
oh, that is great. That is great. No, I love that. I mean, we've all made the mistake, if you've been in real
yeah.
estate long enough, of getting with a bad contractor. I had one recently. I let him manage a couple projects, and then he had things happen in his life that caused some desperation. And that tends to go hand in hand. When people are desperate, you think, oh, they'll be great to work with, but it normally ends up being a disaster, because there's probably decisions they made in their life that led them to the desperation they're at now, and it's a reoccurring theme. And so coming up with that good contractor, especially if you're going to, like Belen was talking about, where you're going to pay somebody to manage the entire thing for you, is key. Spend time finding the right one. It's like hiring, hire slow, fire fast. Just take your time and find the right one. Now, if you're running subs and you're not having a general contractor and you're subbing it out yourself, which I do now, that's how I run my projects. It's so much easier that way. Who are some standard subs that are usually on your team? Like, what do they do? What are their specialties, and how do you find them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the musts that I have are electrician, plumber, um, painter, landscaper or
Yep.
landscaper. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's I feel like that one's a big one where people tend to forget about. So I call him my tree guy, and then I have a lawn person. So those, and then a person that specializes in flooring, and then an HVAC guy. So really, my biggest ones are they licensed, right? So are they licensed for HVAC? Are they licensed for plumbing? Are they licensed for electrical? If
Yeah.
I'm doing anything huge to a property, so I've already flipped or I've remodeled two fire damage homes where the electrical, the plumbing, the HVAC all had to be completely redone. I don't want to just hire my regular handy guy to go in there and rewire an entire house for me. I'm going to make sure that my licensed electrician goes in there. But if I'm just changing out some outlets, then yeah, I'll have my handyman do that because I know he can. You're literally just taking out one outlet, seeing how it's all connected and redoing it. Like if I can do it myself, I don't need to hire somebody that's going to be specific to that job unless I want to.
Yeah.
But if I can't do it myself, which is, wiring an entire house, I cannot do that. I'm going to hire an electrician that's licensed. So those are really the subs that I have. I will text him and I'll be like, hey, plumber, his name is Bill. Can you come out and do blah, blah, blah. Here's the pictures. This is what I want. I'm able to now do that because I've built those relationships with them. When I first started, I had to go through a couple of those subs. I had to go through a couple plumbers. I had to go through a couple electricians, a couple HVAC people, because some of them are like, oh, well, you're a woman, where's your husband? I've always been the one to manage the projects. And I had those issues where it's like, I don't want to work with somebody if they're going to look at me and they're not going to take me seriously just because I'm a woman.
Yep.
And I'm always in like my work clothes, right? Like I've got paint on me, I've got dust on me, on whatever. And so I want to work with people that are going to take the time to really listen to me, listen to my questions, answer my questions, and be able to be like, okay, that's what you want to do. That's what we'll do. But I also want subcontractors that are going to be able to explain things to me as to why they cannot do something or why they can't do something or why they suggest to do something else.
Yeah.
So the communication is huge, right? Like if you're trying to hire out subcontractors or contractors or whoever, you got to make sure that you're able to really communicate with them and they're able to communicate with you back. So it really depends on the person and what kind of team they're trying to build. But like you've got your subcontractors, right? Do
Yep.
you always go with one handyman to do all of the little things, and then your plumber, your big trades to do all the big stuff? I feel like that is the best way to do it, because you're not going to hire a specialized plumber to go in there and like install your sink, right? Like for
No,
me it's like a waste of time for them, because it's like they've got bigger jobs, they've got better things to do with their time. I'm going to hire a handyman for a sink installation because it does not take that much time. It's an easy process. So tell me if that's exactly what you do.
that's literally exactly what I do. I have all the same subcontractors that you have. Um, and then I have a guy, his name's Landon, who does everything else. So he'll demo if we're needing to frame out a pantry, he'll frame out the pantry. If we're needing to change outlets, close in an exterior door, all just a little handy stuff he does. And then I bring the electrician in for all that. I just have my HVAC guy. I got a bill sitting in my inbox, $1,200 to repair all the ducts, all new ducts underneath the house, and they had to do some other stuff. Plumber to fix any plumbing issues. And then sometimes we'll even go like these hardware stores, the Home Depot and Lowe's, they can do a lot of stuff for you too. Like if Landon's busy on a different part of the house that's taking him some time and I want to speed this process up, I will bring in Home Depot or Lowe's. I know it's may not be the greatest thing to do, but they'll come measure out windows and put in new windows for us. And so you can get creative and get stuff done however you need it done. I truly believe the best way is to sub it out. I really believe that. I actually think it can be less of a hassle than um, not managing the project yourself, but than giving it to somebody. And in my experience, you save a lot of money using the subs. And to piggyback off what you said, the two biggest things are set expectations and then communicate.
Right.
And the greatest way that I found to find these people is networking. But even if you say, "Hey, I'm in an area, I'm in a market where I don't have a network," I mean, the technology now, you can literally type in plumber Anderson, South Carolina on Google and start with the three that have the best ratings. Look for
Yep.
people who've got 100, 200, 500,000 plus ratings. Call them, interview them. Call the next two, interview them. Pick the one you like. I mean, it's set up nowadays to where you should be able to sub out a project pretty easily. And they usually, I mean, what I have found is they can normally get to you in a pretty good amount of time. Like they're running a business, so they're used to bouncing everywhere. Where if you hire a contractor who tries to use some of his guys to do some things that a sub probably should be doing, it may take some time. They may be working on another project and they can't get to your house for a couple weeks. So, anyways, not to go on and on about that. I love that structure. I think it's the best way to do it. One thing that I would love to hear how you do it, because me and my wife, she manages our rehabs. So when we're rehabbing properties, she manages it. And I've told her demand respect from all of the contractors and subcontractors, and we've gotten to a place where they know, hey, don't call me, I'm not dealing with it. Like she's the boss on this. But one of the things that we have to work through still is the flow of the project. And so what have you found that you've systematized to where you say, hey, this is the first thing we do, then we move to this, then we move to that. That way you know how to line up the subcontractors.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so for me, when I'm starting a project, I analyze it first in terms of like, okay, what needs to be done? Is it just going to be an interior cosmetic remodel, or do I need roof to be replaced? Do I need HVAC to be replaced? Do I need demo to be done? So you say you have your handyman, he does your demo. I actually have a crew specifically for demo,
That's
because
cool.
a lot of the projects that I'm doing, I don't know if you saw my story from yesterday, they're pretty bad. So they need a lot of clean out, a lot of gut. And so I have my partner who actually started his own demo company. I literally just call him up and I'm like, hey, can you give me a quote for this? So I take it into the stages of what are my big ticket items that I need to do. So if I do have to replace the roof, that's getting done first. because I don't want to potentially wait until later in the project. It starts raining, now it's leaking into the house, now my interior is damaged. So roof is getting done first, and then my other big ticket items, which will be HVAC, plumbing, electrical. I also put windows in big ticket items just because if I'm replacing all of them, it's gonna take a little bit of money. So then I do all of those big ticket items if I have to do them, and then I also do the demo within that time frame, right? So I'm doing all the stuff that I'm doing on the exterior, HVAC, all that good stuff, and then I can get my handyman in there to start doing like the things that he would do. Um, and I take it into where my handyman is sanding everything down. My handyman is, removing doors from hallways. He's essentially doing all of the prep work. Where now my painter goes in and he paints the whole house. So we're gonna take it from top to bottom. He paints the whole house. The bathrooms start getting fixed up, and then the flooring will be the last thing. So then my flooring guy goes in there. He does the flooring, and now I've got my handyman back in there, and he's doing all the touches. Right? He's doing the baseboards. He's doing the outlet changes. He's doing the fixtures. So yeah, I do from big ticket items to demo from top to bottom.
Yeah. I
That's
love that, top to
essentially,
bottom. That's what I preach. Top
yeah,
to bottom. Floors are essentially the last thing that you do. And we do the same thing. You got to take care of a roof first. You got to take care of the big ticket items and like the things under the house. Like I always get those, the electricians, the things you can't see, you know,
right.
electricians there, the
Plumbing,
plumbers there, any foundation stuff that may need to be done. We had to level a floor in the last house. Like I get all those people there first. And then once all that stuff on the exterior and what we call the bones of the house are done, then we can go in and work on the aesthetics top down. I mean, that's textbook. And
yeah,
it works. It works really, really well. And it just flows. And then it lets you know, hey, this is how I need to line my people up. Hey, we're going to get the roofer there first, the HVAC guy there first, electrician there, and the plumber there. While they're doing that, we got demo going on inside the house. Next thing we're doing is drywall and paint. Once that's
yep,
done, we're going to bring in, if we got to put in a new kitchen, do all that. And then we're going to lay floor down and then put the finishing touches, sell it, move on to the next one, or refinance, keep it as a rental, move on to the next one. And it goes like clockwork. I really appreciate you breaking that down because I feel like people get spaghetti brain when they're thinking about that. They can't like get their mind wrapped around it, you know? And it's, and anytime you do something for the first couple times, even though like you hear me and Belen say it, it's not gonna like be the smoothest process for you. It just won't. But
no.
that's why it's great to have people in your corner. That's why our folks have access to Belen because they can holler at her and
Ask me
ask
all
for
the
help,
questions.
ask all the questions. So they get a head start and they get to miss all the roadblocks. But I really like how you spelled that out. What have you found to get the most accurate estimates for repairs, because we want to be as
Ooh,
close as possible, and I know that those are never exact. So what have you done to try to nail that down?
yeah, that's my next favorite question. So I was, again, I've made my fair share of mistakes. I had my first fire damage house back in 2021, and I was like, I'm only gonna need $50,000 to fix this baby up. Then I went in there and I realized I needed everything brand new, and we went over budget by half. So we were at $100,000. From that moment, I was like, I gotta do something different. And what I realized was I didn't know what actually needed to be done to a house
Mm,
when we were buying it. So I set myself up for success, and I started to do the walkthroughs with my home inspector while we had the houses under contract. So that is like the biggest thing that I tell people is like, go and do a walkthrough with your home inspector.
yeah,
Never buy a house without a home inspection. Always
yep,
have that done. And make sure that it's a good home inspector, because I've had home inspectors where they're like, oh yeah, just this and this. And their reports are like a page long. My home inspector now gives me like a 20-page long report of the house because he's in there and he's being very thorough. He's takes like an hour to do each inspection. And he was really good at helping me through it. So I would ask him questions like, oh, well, how do you know that that's not live termites? and be like, oh, well, you see, they're not crawling.
They're
This is
not
just
there.
residue. This is just residue from like years ago. And I was like, okay, so now I know how to determine live termites from not active termites. And so, like, somebody that's going to be helping you answering those questions, it's really going to help you determine, okay, so this house needs this, and this. How much is that going to cost altogether? So after I did that, after I was able to determine what the house actually needed to be fixed, repaired, replaced, remodeled, then I can say, okay, how much is that really going to cost me? And that really only came with the prices that I was getting from contractors, the prices that I was getting from materials, right? So you don't want to just stick to like the labor prices. You also want to stick to how much is the material going to cost for this, right? So if I'm completely drywalling a new house or a house and it's all new drywall, I'm like, okay, well, I need to make sure that I'm doing the insulation, that I'm doing the drywall, mud and texture, and painting. So that's all included. So how much is each part going to cost me? Labor plus material. And so I started to kind of put those numbers together where now I can go in there and be like, okay, this house needs about $40,000 of remodel or of rehab so that we can then either rent it or sell it. And it gets easier with each property. And what I'd like to tell people, it's like you have to kind of look at it as a square footage. Are you going to be buying this property to rent it? Are you going to be buying this property to sell it? And once you determine those two things, are you trying to rent it out and not do a lot to it? Or is it a rental that you're going to have to do a lot to make sure that it's livable, right? Because
Yeah.
there's some like condemned homes that I like to buy, and I'm gonna have to put in quite a lot of money in order to rent it out before I do. So you have your low rental, your high rental, you've got your flip. Are you just doing a hotel, right? Are you just putting some lipstick on, some paint, some flooring, and then calling it a day? Or do you want to make more money and you're going to do a high end flip, right? So you've got your high and your low on the flips. So essentially, you're taking your rental and your flip and you're dividing it into two separate sections for each and asking yourself, what am I going to do with this deal? Once you determine that, then you can go in there and be like, okay, if I'm going to be doing a high end flip, depending on the square footage of the property, I'm probably putting in $70 per square foot of that particular house. Again, high end flip means you're going in there, you're gutting the bathrooms, you're gutting the kitchen, you're doing all new flooring, paint, exterior paint, potential big ticket items. If you're doing a low end rental, then you're probably putting in like $30 a square foot. And you're just going in there to do uh, little things in the bathroom, painting, and then potentially new flooring. And that's it. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like, we can get more into it, but literally we would be here for a few hours.
No, that I
That's
think
kind
that's
of like the
perfect.
little gist of it.
Yeah, because that was my next question: is how do you fix a rental versus a flip? And you answered it. I mean, there it can be different for each rental. You mentioned the low end, the high end. It can be different for each flip, But I think the biggest thing that we've done to piggyback off what you said when we're doing a rental, I'm not usually redoing the kitchen. Oftentimes I will throw like a granite countertop on there. It's an extra couple grand or something because it's gonna last. We're not doing real hardwood. We're putting the LVT flooring down. You are going to put a fresh coat of paint. At least we do usually, whether we're flipping or renting. I mean, you'd be surprised what paint in a house will do when somebody walks in, right? It just gives it a good look. We're not putting in tile showers. We're buying the insert showers just for rentals, buying the insert showers from Home Depot or Lowe's. You can still put new vanities in for a rental. We usually do, but we buy the ones that are like $150, right? We're not going all out. You don't have to spend quite as much on landscape when you're flipping a property. Curb appeal's huge,
Right.
and you better not forget that in your estimates when you're running your numbers on the front end, because curb appeal is going to be huge. We're not going to paint the exterior if we're doing a rental, or the cute front door, uh, or things like that. Whereas when we're doing a flip, and I'm so glad you mentioned this, I the first things I do, and it was what we talked about, the plumbing, HVAC, all the stuff, is we leverage that inspection report. Because if you're going to flip a
Absolutely.
house and sell it, it's got to meet the inspection report, because most buyers who are buying a regular home are scared of every little thing. And for them to get loans, there's certain things on that inspection report that have to be fixed. And so I literally will take my inspection report, take screenshots of each section, and send it to that subcontractor and say, hey, these particular things in this section must be fixed. And it's pretty simple, because you are paying $300 or whatever for somebody to go in and tell you everything that's wrong with the property. And then you can just screenshot that, have a conversation with the professional, have them fix it. Then you can have peace of mind. Okay, this is done. Right. And you mentioned you should always get an inspection report 100%, whether you're doing a big
Mhm.
time flip or not, because it lets you know what's going on with your property. Because guess what? You may not do a big rehab on the front end, but there may be a day where you want to flip it 3 years down the road. Well, if you keep that inspection report in your files, yeah, there may be some stuff that's happened since then, but it'll still be able to give you a really good idea of those major issues that you didn't have to fix because it was a rental then, that are still there, that need to be taken care of before you can sell the property. So that's good stuff. And uh, I can't talk enough about an inspection report. I know people who will buy properties without getting an inspection and without getting a termite inspection. Like, oh, I walked it with a contractor. Look, I don't care if you walked it with a contractor. Contractors are going to walk through and be like, oh, yeah, I can fix that. Yeah, oh, yeah, we can fix that. Yeah, we can fix that. Yeah, we can fix that. And the next thing you know, it's like, yeah, they can fix it, but it's $120,000 and you had a $50,000 budget. you know?
Yeah, and not just that, like they're not gonna really see things until they start opening
No.
up walls. And my inspector literally will go into crawl spaces. He will go into the attics. He will go into literally every area. He'll open up the electrical panel and like make sure that it's up to code or whatever. And you bring up a good point. Like if you are going to sell the house, you're going to make sure that you don't have to go back once you're under contract and the potential buyer already did their inspection and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you need to fix this, 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 and this." That's just wasting more time for you, and you're not going to be able to sell your house as fast as you want it to. And I actually went through that recently. One of the houses that I had as a rental, I ended up selling here in Oklahoma, and the buyer was like, "Hey, your roof needs to be replaced." This is what my inspection report said. "Hey, the attic door is actually not working. You need to fix that." Hey, this and this, and they gave me a whole list, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Let me look at what actually needs to get fixed." Yes, we did replace the roof. Yes, we did fix the attic door. But all the others, oh, and then we ended up doing some electrical. But all the other stuff was like, oh, the space is broken or whatever. And I'm like, cosmetic. If
Yeah.
it's cosmetic, it's not a big deal. But if it's something safety related, like, yeah, they need access to their attic. Yeah, they need to make sure the electrical is good. And then, yeah, they need to make sure the roof's not going to be leaking. That actually put in an extra like 3 weeks into our time frame, so we didn't sell that house for another 3 weeks. That's
Mm.
something you don't want to have to deal with when you're trying to sell a property. So you make a very good point.
And we've all been there. So learn from our mistakes because it
Absolutely.
is avoidable if you just do the right thing. And last thing on the inspection report, it is one of the best tools for negotiation. If you get an inspection report on the property, I've knocked $10,000, $15,000 off of the sales price of a property by getting an inspection report and using it to leverage with the sellers when I'm negotiating.
Absolutely.
So
I
always
do
get
that
them.
all the time too.
Yeah, you have to. It's like, bro, this is factual data. Sorry, I looked at the property. None of us knew that this existed until this. It's hard to negotiate, just to clarify, what can be seen just by walking through a property, but it's very easy to negotiate off of the things that can't be seen that the inspector finds by crawling under the house, going into the attic.
Yeah.
Um,
So all your big ticket items, essentially, your foundation, your HVAC, your electrical, your plumbing, roof, all those things, absolutely, 100%. I always renegotiate the price. I'm like, yeah, let's get it under contract for asking price, but you wanted 90K? Yeah, you're gonna sell me this house for 60.
Exactly. No, that's spot on. And it gives you so much leverage because once you have an inspection report done, that is public knowledge and they must let every other potential buyer know what is wrong with the property. And so you've already got this property locked up. You've got them pinned in a corner, essentially. Hey, you need to agree to my terms based on this inspection report. If you don't, you're going to have to go out of contract, remarket this property, and then remarket this property knowing that all this stuff is wrong with it, and you're gonna have to let every other potential buyer know. And when you do that, you put yourself in a good position to get a lot of good deals.
Absolutely, yeah. Because they're not gonna want to get out of contract. They're gonna want to sell the property, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we missed out on 15K, but here you go. I agree.
Exactly.
It
Well,
happens all the
cool.
time.
Yeah, no doubt. So tell us about your property management company, or your project, excuse me, your project management company, Trivest REI Consultants, because everybody, you can go out and try to do all this on your own and have a lot of headache, or you could call a pro like Belen and let her team do it for you.
Yeah. So thank you for asking about that. Because honestly, like you and I could sit here and talk about like how to vet contractors, how to find them, right? You know, like you said, networking or word of mouth or whatever. But it does take some time. It does take some mistakes. Like we can literally give them the handbook and they can still be like, why did I hire this contractor? Like he just took all my money. So because I didn't want other investors to go through the same issues that I went through, and I wanted to be able to share my own mistakes and be able to prevent those mistakes from continuing to happen to other investors. My partner Tomias and I actually created a project management company. So it's Trivest REI Consultants, and we now have clients where they're interested in either the Oklahoma area or really any state. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a project that's currently active right now in Virginia, and they hired us to manage the project. So we're essentially in charge of finding a team if we don't already have a team in place. We're in charge of essentially laying out the levels and the way that the project's going to flow, as we talked about earlier. And then again, I love being in charge of materials. So I'm in charge of materials as well. So I'm able to really manage how much is being spent on the material side, how much is being spent on the labor side, and we literally take it from start to finish. And all the clients have to do is just, hey, we need more money, send us more money. And the money is not really for us, it's for the project, right? So hey, this person needs to be paid. Okay, this is how much it is, here's the invoice, this, go ahead and pay this person. Hey, these are the materials that need to be bought, this is the receipt or the potential invoice, you know, pay for this. That's essentially all that the client is doing, is just, okay, approving the, this is how much is going to get paid, and then paying whatever needs to be get whatever needs to be paid. But essentially, other than that, we keep them updated via Slack. I also use a Monday.com. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So essentially, it's just a platform that I put all of the steps of the project into. It's like um, Asana. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I don't know.
No.
I'm not familiar with that one either. I need to get in the game here.
I was like, what are you using to manage all your projects?
Just Excel sheet in my brain.
There you go. That's the way to do it. Well, Monday.com is essentially Excel sheets on crack. So you can give access to your clients or to whoever. I input all the information in there, the steps where we're at with the project, and then our client can go in there and view everything. So you can add pictures, you can add, you know, this is where we're at, this is what's next. These are the people working on there. This is how much it's costing. This is essentially everything is on there. And then we do also use Google Drive to kind of input all of the receipts and their invoices, so they have access to that because we know that they're going to need that during tax season.
Yeah.
So we make sure that we provide everything for our client, and they're literally, again, all they have to do is approve or not approve an invoice or a receipt or whatever. And yeah, we try to be as smooth
It's
as
turnkey.
possible.
You do it for them. What markets are you in?
So, like I mentioned, I'm in Oklahoma, but we're open to whatever state. I've gotten pretty good at vetting contractors, subcontractors, where we can literally find any team anywhere, as well as I do use my network. So I've met a lot of people throughout my time as an investor where I'm like, hey, do you have a contractor in this area? Or do you have a subcontractor in this area? And really, you just have to start with one. For example, I started with And actually, I got a quote from a roofer on a house that I ended up not using because we ended up not buying that property. And then I reached back out to him because we had a pretty good conversation, him and I reached back and I was like, hey, do you happen to know an HVAC person? He's like, actually, yes, here's his number. So then I hired that guy, did a great job. And then I asked the HVAC guy, I'm like, hey, do you happen to know, a painter? He's like, actually, yes, here's two. So then I hired one of those. And then I asked the painter, I'm like, do you happen to know da 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 da? And so that's kind of like also another great way of like building your team is like you ask the people that you like that did a great job, and they also have their own little network where it's like, actually, yes, here's this person, give them a call. So, excuse me. Yeah, I'm not really worried about whatever state or whatever market. If the client has a property already in like Indianapolis and they're like, hey, can you manage this project? I'm like, sure, let me go ahead and find a team first because that's going to be important. And then we can talk about how much the project would cost.
That's really cool. You know exactly what you're doing. You're going to alleviate a lot of headaches and you're going to expedite the process, and time is money. And so that's really cool that you guys are now offering that. Where can people find that? Do you guys have a website, or is it best to reach out to you on Instagram?
So it's best to reach out to me. We are currently working on our website. Like I mentioned, this company started this year. So we're finally at a point where like we need a website. Like we need to get that out there. And we just actually talked about that this morning. So you can reach me on Instagram, like you said, Belen_the_builder. And you guys can just DM me project management and we can talk more about it. I do like to have a conversation with our clients first before they hire us because I want to make sure it's a good fit. And we talk about like, this is what we offer, this is what we do. And if it works for them, then, we can move forward. I want to make sure that the client vendor relationship works really well because like I mentioned, if I have a contractor that I don't communicate well with, I'm not going to work with them. Same with a project management company. If I was on the client side and I don't like my project management company, I don't want to work with them. So I like to put myself in the client's shoes because I've been there and done that.
Yeah, you know what they need, and that's what's so powerful about your company. And I'm
Right.
proud of you guys and excited for y'all to be offering that to people. But thank you so much for being on today. This is a wealth of knowledge that our listeners got. I hope, listeners, that you understand um, this lesson that you just got today, because it is gold. It is gold, gold, gold. So thank you, Belen. I really appreciate you being on. If you're listening to this right now, take a screenshot of you listening to it and tag both of us on Instagram, me at Finance Cowboy, Belen at Belen_the_builder, and let us know you listen. We both like to take time out of our day, since you took time out of yours to listen to this, to thank you personally for being on the show. And Belen, thank you. You're crushing it. Good luck with the rest of your pregnancy. I'll see you in the
Thank you.
Rental
Thank you.
Academy, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, I apologize for my winded conversations.
No, it is all good. You did fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you, Darren.